I think we're gonna need to raise this desk up. This is a standing moment here. There we go, hi! Today is an exciting day. I just got a very exciting package in the mail. This is my author crate. My books are in. These are gonna be for some giveaways, some promotional stuff. If I'm looking there and there, it's because I have two cameras going. But yeah, so you guys have seen my book. I've shown you in a video, but now I get a stack of them and I'm gonna open them and then we're gonna answer some questions that I got from some of my viewers on Instagram about the book, and I'm gonna sign some. So I also want you to stay tuned because I am going to be doing a giveaway of a couple of my books. So, okay. This is so crazy. Like, it's not just one book, it's a multiple book situation here. Okay. All right. Okay. It's a stack of them! Holy moly. There's a bunch in here. Oh. I am a freaking author illustrator. Okay, so all of my books are unboxed now, and I was going to sign them and answer questions, but I don't think I am that great at multitasking, and I will probably end up writing something that I don't mean to in one of these books, so I'm just going to answer the questions that I received from Instagram. Okay, so the first one was, how big is the actual book? It is 8.5 by 11 inches, and it has about 171 pages in it, so it's a fairly good size. It is a soft cover book, and it is wonderful. Where can you buy this book? So far, I know that it is available for pre-order on Amazon in the United States as well as Canada, and it's released on December 20th of this year. I think someone mentioned that it is available in the UK on Amazon, but it's released in March. I have to double check with my publisher about it being shipped worldwide or where it's available internationally, because I'm actually not too sure at the moment. And I know at some point these will be released in bookstores in the States and in Canada. Someone asked how much is the book, and again, that depends on where you are located in the world. It's going to differ based on your location. I would definitely recommend checking Amazon to see how much it is depending on where you live. I was asked, is it beginner friendly? Is it too advanced for a 10-year-old? And my response to that is no, I don't think it's too advanced for a 10-year-old, and I don't think it's super basic either. My whole approach to watercolor is that anybody can paint. And if you don't know how to paint with watercolor, depending on whether you're 10 or 98, doesn't matter. If you don't know the basics, this is going to be perfect for you. If you watch my videos, which I'm assuming you do, you know that I am pretty straightforward. I go through each step as carefully and as simply as possible, so I believe that is exactly what this book does. Now, that's not to say that this isn't for more experienced painters. There's tons of information in this that will be helpful to you as well, and some of the projects may be on the more difficult side depending on what you feel comfortable with, but it is great for beginners and I believe intermediate. Are there projects in the book? So yes, so if you actually haven't watched my video on a flip through of this book that I did a couple weeks ago, I will link that below because I do flip through the book to show you everything that's inside. But the first half of this book is all about techniques, color mixing, color theory, all the techniques I used, and then supplies. I go through all the supplies that I use. And then the second half of the book is project-based. So I have come up with 20 different tutorials where you have step-by-step instructions with the illustrations to go along with it. So they go and range from everything from botanicals, so loose florals, I have some detailed florals, I have trees, I have plants, I also have food, and I have animals. Someone asked if I covered people, and I do not cover that in this book. But I'm pretty happy with the range of subjects that I do have available. Someone asked, can the drawings in the book be traced? And there's actually a section at the back, the final section, where I do have a step-by-step on how to draw it, just visual guide, not actual instructions. But then you can trace. I made it big enough so you guys can trace the final product. And this is just for the more intricate illustrations. For the projects that are more landscape based, I don't believe that you need to trace it. I actually show you step by step of how to do those things. So you don't have a tracing image for that. But for the animals and some of the food and the detailed florals, you do have tracing pages at the back for that. Now, someone asked if I have links to videos for all of the projects and lessons in this book. And for that answer, there are some. So if you watched me do the flip through video of the book, you may have noticed there are some QR codes by some of the illustrations. And those you can scan with your phone and it will take you directly to some of my videos on YouTube where I cover those subjects in a video and through the book. Now, the projects will not have that. However, I have done some of the projects in the past, but I didn't link the video because a lot of them I did a long time ago and my steps may have been different, so they weren't exactly the same. But for a lot of the techniques and stuff like that, I do have QR codes for those lessons. Someone else asked, do we have to have the same materials and supplies that you use in the book? And my answer to that is no. I don't believe you have to have the same exact materials that I use in this book or even in any of my videos. I want you to work with what you have. However, there is a supply guide at the beginning that goes through everything about brushes, paint, and paper, and I give you some recommendations of things that I do enjoy using, but my whole thing is budget friendly. Use whatever you have. You can definitely use your own colors for this, your own brushes for this, whatever you feel most comfortable using. Someone else asked, does it show you how to mix the colors for the projects? And yes, in the description of each of the projects, I go through the techniques that are used, the materials that are needed, or the ones that I've used. Again, you can use whatever you like, and it even says 5 paint colors, modify with whatever you have. It shows you the paint colors I use because I know people really like to know. And then it also gives you the color mixing recipes on what colors I use to mix those. Another question was, how is this book different from your tutorials? And to be completely honest, it's not really different. It's actually quite the same. But the difference is that people learn differently. Some people like to look at a written page of instructions. Some people learn through auditory instructions where they need to hear someone explain it. And some people just learn visually. Like me, I prefer to actually just watch someone do something without any explanation. And that's just how I learn. But this book is for people who like to have the book in their hands to refer back to. Maybe they don't, enjoy watching the videos as much. They really want to have the instructions in their hands. But mostly, I love collecting watercolor books because I feel like they're collector's items and they bring me happiness. So hopefully this book will do the same for you. Okay, so now that I've kind of answered all the questions about the actual book, people have asked questions about the process of writing the book. So my first question that I got was, how long have you been wanting to write a book? And honestly, it has been for a very, very long time. I remember being a child and not necessarily wanting to write a book. What I used to do is I used to create or illustrate cover pages for a book idea that I was interested in creating. And I always had a struggle to write the book, but I loved creating cover pages. So I'd say that since I was a child, this is something I've wanted to do. The next question was, how did I get hooked up with my publisher? Now, it's funny because there was a while where I was watching all of my favorite Instagram artists get these book deals and, writing books and having them published. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. And I actually reached out to an artist on Instagram who I love, Electric Eunice. She had recently written a book and I DM'd her and I was just like, how do you do this? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? And she said that they approached her. And I was just like, that's awesome. And I'm like, is anyone ever going to approach me or do I have to seek this out? And surely enough, I swear it was like maybe a month later, Mango Publishing reached out to me and asked if I'd like to write a book. And I was all about that, obviously. So they did reach out to me. We had a few meetings. We talked about it, our ideas, and it started to become a reality. Someone asked what the process of writing this book was like. So like I mentioned, we had an initial meeting with my editor, the publisher. We kind of talked about book ideas, where we wanted to go with this book. And then we just got right into writing. And by we, I mean me. So I started, I want to say over a year ago. I can't even remember. Time doesn't make sense to me anymore. Maybe it was 2 years ago, actually. I don't know what the date is anymore. So we did the meeting and I got right into writing. I kind of just mapped out all the chapters that I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do a watercolor basics books because I do eventually want to do more, but I knew I had to start somewhere. I had to have a first book, a starting point. And I felt this was the best way to do it. This could be the first reference that people could go back to. So I wrote down everything I wanted to include in it, from supplies to techniques, everything, and then basic tutorials. So I would write a bunch, but then, to be honest, I would illustrate a bunch as well and then write after, because I enjoyed the illustration process a lot more. Someone asked, what was your inspiration to write this and why did you want to write a book? Like I said, I've been wanting to write a book since I was a kid. I never knew what kind of book, but it only made sense that I would write a watercolor book. I still do have the urge to write and illustrate children's books. That is a future endeavor that I do want to successfully do. But I really wanted to put everything that I've been doing over the past 5 years on YouTube into a guide. So if you guys know, I have an Etsy shop as well, and I've been doing small workbooklets. They're digital copies, and I think it was a year or two ago when I did a video on my workbooks that are on Etsy, I said, maybe one day I can print them, or I could even write my own book. And that was always just kind of in the back of my mind as something I wanted to do. I've always wanted to hold my book in my hands, and now I can, and it's crazy. Someone asked, how did you decide on what paintings you wanted to choose to put in the books? So I'm assuming they mean the projects at the back. Again, I just wanted to make them beginner friendly, basic and easy, but I also wanted to give a variety. Someone asked if I would do one that's strictly florals, and eventually that is something I would like to do because that is my comfort zone, that is my jam. But I figured because I was doing a beginner watercolor booklet, I did want to cover everything from landscapes to plants to flowers to animals to food, just to kind of give a variety. So if someone's not necessarily into just flowers, but they want to learn the basics of watercolor, they'd kind of have a little taste of everything to see what they like the best. Someone asked if it was scary to write this book, and yeah, it was, because even I struggle with imposter syndrome constantly. I still, even holding this book in my hands and seeing it done and finished, I wonder, like, okay, a bunch of people have ordered it, but are they going to like it? Was this worth my time? Is it actually worth people buying? I mean, I'm going to tell you it is. But at the same time, you have those moments in your mind where you're just like, will people actually like what I have to say? Does it sound smart enough? Does it sound like it actually makes sense? Because if you watch my videos, you know I fumble over my words a lot. So I'm always wondering, do people actually understand what I'm saying? And though I've read it and reread it and reread it and had people edit it, I still hope that, it is exactly what I wanted it to be. So was I scared to write a book? Yes. You are putting yourself out there as a brand, as something big that people are investing their money into. And it's a little terrifying. It's very exciting, but it's a little terrifying at the same time. What was my favorite part about the whole process? I have to say it was the illustrations. I enjoyed writing sometimes, not always the writing part, but I loved doing illustrations, not even just the projects, but just like creating my supplies and my brushes and the palettes, just like my desk illustration, that kind of stuff I loved doing. A lot of times that brought me a lot of peace, and I really enjoyed that part of this process. Someone asked, what was the hardest part, and did I ever have doubts that I would finish? So if you remember, so not last January, I think it was the January before that I got in touch with the publisher and we started kind of mulling over ideas. But halfway through that, in August, was it August? I think it was August, I found out that I was pregnant with my 7-month-old son. So halfway through the process, and I think I was in the middle of writing and illustrating, I had the worst morning sickness. That was such a difficult pregnancy. So I was doing the majority of this book while I was sick and pregnant. And my deadline of when I had to be finished with the manuscript and all of the illustrations was right around my son's due date. So there were times where I was figuring out last minute things and illustrating and writing with a brand new baby. So yes, it was extremely hard. It was not necessarily planned. My husband and I were trying for a baby, but we had been trying the year before as well, and it didn't really happen. So I didn't actually think that it would happen that quickly, and then it did, and it was like, surprise, you have a baby. And you also have to finish up your book. So yes, it was very hard. And there were times where I was just like, how am I going to finish this? How am I going to do this? And I definitely doubted myself, but I got it done. And the last question is, are you planning to write more books? And that is a yes. I would love to write more books. I would love to do a book dedicated to florals. Florals are where my heart is. That is where I started. That is what I love painting the most. So I would love to do a book based on loose florals, maybe some detailed florals, maybe a mix of both. And someone else asked if I would consider doing something a bit more intermediate. The thing is with that is that I am a beginner teacher. I love teaching beginner watercolor. I love getting people into watercolor and getting them to fall in love with it. Working with beginners is kind of where it's at for me. And then maybe there's also times that I feel like I don't know if my work would be intermediate enough to be able to write a book where you have many more steps and it's a bit more challenging. I just don't know how I'd go about that exactly, but I would like to write more books. And like I said earlier, I would love to write a children's book as well and illustrate it. So I do have plans, maybe not right now. I'm going to enjoy, this being done, work on my watercolor subscription boxes. My videos take up so much of my time as well as my darling children. So I think I'm just going to take a pause on those ideas for a little bit. But yes, I do plan to do more books. And that's it. Those are all the questions. So I hope you guys had your question answered. Again, if you haven't watched the video where I do a walkthrough of the book, make sure to check that out in the description below. But that's it. I'm going to go and sign all of these, and I am going to get ready for a giveaway. So like I said, I'm going to be giving away 2 copies here on YouTube. So what you need to do to enter is like this video, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, and also comment below of why you'd want to own my book. Give me a little insight into what you're thinking, as well as let me know where you're from. I love the fact that this community is from all over. So give me a shout of where you're from and why you'd like to own my book, and I will pick a winner. In the description below, I will put all the details of how to enter and the final picking of the winner date. So good with words. But yeah, just make sure to check the description so you have all the details, and best of luck. So the winner will get a signed watercolor lessons book from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and all my other platforms for tons more content. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.